Hello everybody, I am Torit Mato and you are watching Art in Purulia. We are discussing painting using acrylics. This is the second video of the series. In the first part we had seen the basic materials that are required and also practiced some basic brush strokes. In this part we will broadly cover the color concepts. The colors can be differentiated in their basic four qualities: hue, value, saturation and temperature. Hue is the color we see, like red, blue, green, violet and so on. Value is the lightness or darkness of it, like light blue or dark blue, or even lighter blue or even darker blue. And saturation is the brightness or dullness of a color, how bright a color is or how dull a color is. And temperature is warm or cool. A warm color is a bit orangish. It has a bit of orangish tint in it. And cool colors which are bluish, they give a feeling of cool temperature. If we see the hue, there are three primary colors: red, yellow and blue. Here we are not considering black and white as colors. When we have all colors being reflected back, we get white. And when everything gets absorbed, we get black. Red, yellow and blue are called the primary colors because these colors cannot be made by mixing any other color. In fact, we can make any other color by mixing these three colors along with black and white. Let's take out the paints. In this video, I will be using one warm shade of red. Here I am selecting cadmium red, and one cool shade of red, which is crimson lake. You can see here, warm means it is more towards orange and cool is more towards blue. Then I will be using cadmium yellow, which is warm yellow, and cadmium lemon, which is cool yellow, and I will be using cerulean blue, which is warm blue, and ultramarine blue, which is cool blue. It sounds really strange to say cool blue is more blue, but that's how it works. I will keep the paints in a stay wet palette so that the paints don't dry fast. If you want to know about how to make a stay wet palette, please watch my video on this. I'll leave a link in the description. Nonetheless, if you don't want to make it, you can just use a disposable plate or your existing palette for the purpose. See, as the acrylic dries, like here, it becomes plastic and it's very difficult to remove. So a disposable plate serves quite well. It may be noted here that a paint in a blob out of the tube straightaway may have a tone which can be quite different than what it appears when applied thinly or added with a little bit of white. The thick tone, what you see as the blob, is called the mass tone, which will appear the same way if you use it thickly over a canvas or any other surface and don't spread it thinly. And the thin one, which may be quite different, is called undertone. This is very prominent in case of synthetic color. Colors or the pigments which are made from natural ingredients don't have this difference. Like even if you thin a natural color, it will remain almost same. It will just be slightly light. But in case of a synthetic color, you will realize that the undertone is quite different from the mass tone. We must keep this in mind because it will make eventually the difference in our painting. Let's make a color wheel now. Color wheel is nothing but arranging the colors in a wheel or rather a circle. First we will put the primary colors: yellow, red and then blue. I'm using a palette knife here primarily because it is easier to clean. You can use even a brush. When we mix two primary colors, we get secondary colors. Like red and yellow makes orange. Red and blue makes violet. And yellow and blue makes green. Again, when we mix a primary color and the adjacent secondary color, we get tertiary colors. Let's arrange all of these and make a color wheel. The tertiary colors we get are red orange, red violet, blue violet, blue green, yellow green, and blue violet. Here a thing to remember is always the primary color comes first. Like red is violet, you will call it red violet, not violet red. To the original hue, when we add a bit of white, it's called tint of that hue. Now we'll make the tints of all these primary colors, secondary colors, as well as the tertiary colors. This is an excellent exercise to understand the color relationships as well as the values of a single color. You must try this so that you can understand in what value or with what strength you can use a certain color in a painting. Color wheel is a really nice arrangement to understand the color relationships. The colors exactly opposite in the wheel are complementary colors. They complement each other and enhance each other when placed adjacent. But if we mix them, we'll get a brown muddy color. So you have to avoid that. Now, best way to use a color wheel is put the yellow on top. You'll realize why by the end of this session. Now let's see some color schemes which help us in making a painting more interesting, more vibrant, or more sober, or whatever mood we want to create in that sense. A monochromatic color scheme is when you are using only one color. Of course, you will add white or black. So you will make different shades of one single color and make the painting. You can also make it just black and white, where you will use different tones of grey. Analogous is where you use the colors that are adjacent to each other on the color wheel. Triadic is where you use three colors which are equally spaced around the color wheel. Complementary scheme we have just spoken, two colors which are totally opposite to each other. And the contrast created in a complementary scheme is the maximum you can create in a painting. Split complementary is when you use a color and the two adjacent colors of its complementary. Analogous complementary is a color and analogous scheme of its complementary. So you will see or you will realize that all these color combinations or schemes create different kinds of vibrancy in a painting. So you have to choose the color scheme if you want to employ any of these color schemes beforehand. In case of watercolor, you can change the value of it by controlling the amount of water being added. Less water, it will be diluted less, and more water, it will be diluted more. Colors in their original form is called its hue, and value of any color is its degree of lightness or darkness. In case of oils or acrylics, if you want to lighten it, you have to add some white. And when you add white to a hue, it's called its tint. And when we add some grey to darken it slightly, that will have some white or black also, it will become its tone. And when you darken it further by just adding black, it's called its shade. So a color has its hue, which is the original form. When we add white, it becomes tint. When we add grey, it becomes tone, and when we add black, it becomes shade. Saturation or chroma is the degree of brightness or dullness of a color. This is not same as the value. The temperature of a color suggests whether the color is orangish, which is warm, or bluish, which is cool. We can see here the shades of warm and cool of red, yellow and blue. And this side of the color wheel are all warm colors, you can see, and this side of the wheel are cool shades. Out of all the properties of a color, in my view, the most important one is its value. If a value is correct, the representation can be proper. In this black and white photo, the values are only in shades of grey, but we can still make out the object very clearly. Change of color makes no much of a difference. This is how it is in original color, which is also referred as local color. But if we change the value or the brightness, the picture can't be made out clearly. Too light or too dark makes it totally different. So making the value match is quite important. In painting, value is extremely important, but with the colors being vibrant and attractive, it becomes difficult to appreciate value. The only way to enhance the knowledge of value is to practice. I know it's a very boring answer, but that's how it works. There aren't any shortcuts. Paint every day, maybe a tiny one, a small painting, and appreciate the representation of a three-dimensional object in 2 dimensions. Observe the subtle changes in values. Appreciate the colors of similar values. Keen observation is very important. Just change in value places objects further or nearer. An easy way to appreciate value is by squinting the eyes. You should be barely able to see. You can appreciate the light areas and dark areas. You can also take a picture and rub off the color by processing the image on your phone or laptop. You can see the values of the colors instantly. Initially, it's a good idea to practice values in black and white. By preparing a grayscale by mixing black and white is a good way. There can be 10 steps, where step 0 can be white and step 10 can be black. That actually makes 11 of them. Later on, value scales using colors also can be made. Let's make a black and white value scale. Then we'll make a painting which will have different values of grey. Let's place black and white in the extreme ends first. Black being extremely dominant, let's start from the white end. We add just 10% black for the first step, then another 10% for the next step. and so on till we achieve 100% black. There will be no white in that. You need not be exact, just feel the change in value. Same exercise can be done with any color to understand how value changes from extremely light to extremely dark. Saturation of a color, as we have discussed earlier, is its brightness or dullness. Now, how do you alter the saturation? Hold the color wheel with yellow on top. Whichever color you want to brighten, add a color above it, towards the yellow, that is towards the top. For yellow, you can add only white. And to make a color dull or reduce the brightness, just add a bit of its complementary color, that is the color which is exactly opposite to it on the color wheel. Let's see some examples. If you want to brighten red, you can add a bit of orange or just red orange. You can brighten it. Similarly, if you want to brighten blue, you can add a little bit of green to it. And even if you want to brighten violet, you can add either red violet if you want to make it slightly warm, or blue violet, or just blue if you want to make it cool. Now we'll paint this glass bottle and the glass to understand the values. First we'll mark the extremities of the shapes and then the outlines. We can paint the background first or even later. Here I will paint the background first. Next we'll see where are the darkest value shades and where are the lightest ones. We mark them one by one. Then we mix colors for the mid-tones. Once we have broadly covered the subjects, we can look for subtle changes and then add the finer details. We end the video here. I've covered a lot of useful things. If you know these basic things about colors and how to mix them, how to change their values and saturation, this is going to take you a long way. So practice this. I know you need not start with a painting. Just practice mixing colors and comparing with the color you intend to make. In the next part, we'll see the process of creating forms or volumes. If you're interested to know how to match a color, there is a separate video on this I made earlier. You can have a look at it. I'll put a link in my description. Stay safe, stay healthy. See you.